WCLN 1170 Radio and Star Vision Cable Channel 16 are pleased to present We Should Know, hosted by J.W. Simmons, an upbeat, informative look at people, places, and issues facing our community. This education-based analysis of issues will remain positive and informative as we consider closely what we should know.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. The name of the show is We Should Know. We thank you, Nicole, for your wonderful introduction each and every week for the show. As you're driving down the road, you're just tuning in on the radio, you're listening to us. Hopefully you're not watching us on TV, but we're coming to you simulcast on WCLN Radio, Star Vision TV, and Star Vision Cable Channel 16, all three mediums. We're also uplinked to YouTube, so about Wednesday or Thursday of the week of the air of this show, you will notice that it'll be on YouTube. You just type in We Should Know, EDU. There it is on YouTube. You'll see a number of other shows that is on YouTube as well. We have a wonderful opportunity today to have some guests with us, and we've had in the past the North Carolina Highway Patrol with us, but we have an opportunity today. We've got the new colonel, with the North Carolina Highway Patrol, and the colonel now, the guy that's with us is William Gray. Colonel Gray, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Also, we have Jeff Gordon. Jeff, now you're a first sergeant with Highway Patrol, and you look after a lot of the media stuff, and we see you a lot on TV, kind of continuing to make the North Carolina Highway Patrol look good and continue to make those explanations that sometimes come up. You explain those for us. Is that kind of correct?
That is correct. I'm the Public Information Officer for the Highway Patrol, and basically my job is to educate the motoring public on safety issues and handle any issues that may arise. So we're excited to be here and have the opportunity to kind of speak to the listeners and kind of show you who we are and what the Highway Patrol is all about.
Colonel, I want to start with you and just talking about the Highway Patrol and just kind of get comfortable and a little relaxed mode here of conversation. This is more of a conversation, discussion show, education, information. You've got a background with the Marine Corps, 10 years in the Marine Corps, 22 years with the North Carolina Highway Patrol. And one of the things I think is interesting with the patrol, guys, is that the colonel with the Highway Patrol comes from the rank and file with the Highway Patrol. There's somebody out there, if we follow history with the patrol, that will one day be colonel. I don't know who that's going to be, but you came up through the ranks with the Highway Patrol. Tell us what that's meant to you over your 22 years as a trooper and going through various ranks with the patrol and then being, appointed as colonel by the governor of North Carolina.
To have the opportunity to be the colonel of the Highway Patrol was a very humbling experience. Anytime, it's definitely a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to lead such a great organization. The men and women we have are second to none. They do a remarkable job under very tough circumstances each and every day. We're very proud of them. I think it's important that the colonel comes from the ranks. We are probably one of the richest organizations in tradition. We still wear the long sleeve shirt and the tie and the campaign hat when we get out of the car, and we do that because we want to be the most professional. And I think because you start as a trooper, going through basic school, and you work your way through it, that you understand there's more to it than just the flavor of the day and what comes along. Man, it's a long history of how we do business, how we conduct ourselves, and the service that we try to give to the citizens of this great state.
Colonel, one of the things that's interested me too is that you guys, the Highway Patrol, started back in 1929, and that actually predates me, surprising to probably a lot of people. But that predates me, and I think about it. I look back at that history, and it didn't just start. It started then, and it was that gravity that pulled people together to want to have that uniqueness and want to be recognized above and beyond what the expectation is. How hard now is it in your position as colonel to look at the patrol and keep that level of integrity and recognition of quality, and literally one of the agencies, North Carolina Highway Patrol, is recognized nationally as one of the premier law enforcement agencies in the United States. So how hard is it, the leader of that organization, to make sure that all stays together when you face all these budget situations and economic crisis and everything that's going on?
Right. And the men and women we have on today, it's not a challenge at all. They know what they're supposed to do. They do what they're supposed to do day in and day out. Now, I will say that the budget has affected us. We used to have thousands of applicants for every school. We don't see that number of quality applicants anymore. And it's the most important thing to us is the person we start with. We're going to shape you, we're going to form you, we're going to make you a state trooper. But who you are inside, your ethics, your morals, those things are very important to us. And that type of applicant you don't find every day. So you have to attract a lot of people to get them through to a point where you're sitting 59 in a long school. And out of that 59, you'll probably graduate 40 to 45 if you're fortunate. So that's the challenge, is that we haven't had pay raises in the last 5 years for our troopers. It makes living tough for a lot of the younger troopers, and that deters some of the applicants that we traditionally had from applying with us, because we got to compete against Charlotte and Raleigh and some of these other big cities. And that's one of our challenges. Our challenge today is not our people. It is just what you said it was. It is our budgetary issues.
And I'll throw this question out to you or Jeff, either one. That idea of integrity has always been a strong theme for the North Carolina Highway Patrol, and been a word that you hear a lot: integrity, bravery, not only the way you look, but walking the walk. How hard is it now, as you look at the public and you see these folks come in, to find those words in people when you're doing screening? Is it becoming harder to find that kind of thing? You know, we've talked about in the past on this show, we've talked about generations: X generation, Y generation, baby boomers, and you know, I'm a boomer, so my generation is on up there. But in these other generations following us, is it getting increasingly harder to find those traits? Well, either one of you, I'll let both of you quote.
I will tell this: I did the recruiting years ago for the Highway Patrol, and as the Colonel said, it's becoming a struggle to fill law enforcement, not just for the Highway Patrol, but all law enforcement across the state and across the country. You know, we talk about numbers, but we go off the philosophy of quantity or quality rather than quantity. You know, we want the best of the best. You know, and a lot of our reputation, a lot of our history has to be attributed, and I'd be amiss if I didn't say this, was for the prior people that came before us, the retirees, the people that put their life on the line. And unfortunately, the situations where people have lost their lives. So, you know, it starts early. It starts somebody who comes into an office and they say, hey, I see you out there, and it is a reflection as far as how we carry ourselves. People in the public see the Highway Patrol and they see a clean pressed uniform, a shiny car, and so forth. And a lot of our people do that for not because they have to, because they want to. They want to look sharp. They want to be professional. And other people that want to be part of that organization, such as ours, that's when they come to the table. Now, you know, there's a lot of people that are good quality people, but sometimes through the process that we go through, you know, there's a checks and balances, and they just don't, you know, and I hate to use the phrase cut the mustard, but sometimes, you know, that happens. But we're always looking for quality people. We're looking for people who are motivated, who are disciplined, who are self-starters, who will, and more importantly, who will continue to carry on the tradition of the North Carolina State Highway Patrol. And, you know, like you said, since 1929, we went from approximately 30-plus troopers to well over almost 1,600 now. And we still have room to grow, and we need to grow. The state's growing by leaps and bounds, and our troopers are doing more with less, but we're still providing that service which the citizens deserve.
Colonel Jeff mentioned the word discipline. How important was it for you in your career coming into this organization as a former Marine with 10 years, and I have to question about discipline with the Marine Corps. Was that a huge benefit for you walking into the Highway Patrol? And with that same question, also kind of roll in this question. For folks that does not have a military background, is it really troublesome to get them in and to understand the discipline of the Highway Patrol?
I believe I had an advantage over some of my classmates and some other troopers who haven't been in the military. Now, we still attract a lot of military, but I had the advantage because, like you said, the Marine Corps will instill in you, you know, discipline and teach you that you can do more than you think you can. Normally, the weakest link is your mind, not your body. And sometimes the younger generation, the guys who have not been in the military, they haven't had to overcome anything like that in the past. But our basic school's almost 7 months long. We run on the same military style atmosphere in that they come in, very strict regiment, we break them down, we make them rely on each other and our staff, and then we start building them back up and mold them into what we want them to be, making them understand, man, they can never give up on the side of the road. No matter how tired or how hurt you are, you got to continue to fight the fight if that's what you're doing, or assist in the public if that's what you're doing, and moving forward each and every day.
Very good point, Jeff. And just to follow up on that question for you, for the Highway Patrol, for folks that don't know this, quite often the troopers that are out there in the state may be out there, the lone person on that road of the closest help may be 30, 40 minutes away, and they're literally by themselves. So what you just said, Colonel, how do you follow up with that as you look at the career with patrol?
Well, I think you need to put into context as far as the state of North Carolina, the population, the number of registered drivers that we have, or licensed drivers in the state. The latest stat that I was able to pull, you have over 4 million licensed drivers in this state. Okay, there's 100 counties. In this state is only second to the state of Texas as far as state-maintained roadways. A lot of people don't realize that. So we've got approximately 1,600 troopers compared to 4 million licensed drivers. Now, it doesn't take a statistician or somebody with a math background to figure out the numbers. That's a large territory to cover. But with that being said, our men and women go out every day and do a fantastic job, and they're going to continue to do that job. It's challenging, but yet it's not uncommon to have a trooper working by himself in a county, and sometimes multiple counties, because some of our counties comprise of more than one county. And one thing that the Highway Patrol is happy to have and thankful to have is we have a good relationship with all law enforcement. So there's often times that the Sheriff's Departments rely on the Patrol relies on the Sheriff's Departments, because you may have heard the saying is almost like a brotherhood or sisterhood in law enforcement, and that is so true, because we are out there protecting each other. So we use other law enforcement agencies, and we're out there basically to do one thing, and that's to come home safely every night.
And that's the big issue, I think, Colonel, as you look at it, all these folks that you represent as Colonel, is that issue of, are they going to come home safe at night? And I want to kind of follow that train of thought when we come back from break and talk a bit about the whole issue of safety and what you guys are maybe doing now that you didn't do 22 years ago to ensure the safety of the troopers and the folks on the road. We're going to go to break, and one of the things that I want to do as we go to break is kind of remind folks that we are talking with the Colonel with the Highway Patrol, and the Colonel will be with us when we come back, and also Jeff Gordon, First Sergeant with the Highway Patrol, that handles a lot of the PR stuff there. We want to thank all of those folks that mention us on WCLN Radio, Boogie Shoes, Don Smith, Wayne Weeks, all of those people with WCLN that constantly mention our program. We appreciate that, but we'll be back in a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I'm pleased to say we have with us a Colonel at the North Carolina Highway Patrol, Colonel William Gray. Also, we have First Sergeant Jeff Gordon with us today. We're talking about the North Carolina Highway Patrol, its history, its impact on the state, and what you need to know about the North Carolina Highway Patrol today. Colonel, again, thank you for being here. Jeff, thank you for making this happen again. I know you've been on the show previously and with the previous Colonel. Colonel, congratulations again. On the first segment, I didn't congratulate you on that, but congratulations. Although there are probably some people who may say I should say condolences, but congratulations on your position, at least in my opinion. And everything I've heard from and talked to and other folks in the state think that the governor got it right in making you the colonel. When we think about Highway Patrol, and we've talked about a number of issues, guys, with the patrol, one of the things that is concerning with Highway Patrol is this whole issue of danger and deaths with the patrol. And I know you guys have faced this a number of times. And it's not somebody looking at going and joining the patrol as a trooper needs to look at it as a position that these things do happen. One of the things that comes to mind was in 1979, there was, as the news report was, a couple of deputies just serving a routine, if there is such a thing as a routine civil paper, ended up being killed. A trooper responding to that unknowingly stopped a speeding vehicle. It happened to be the same guy. He ends up being killed. And to me at least, one of the huge advantages of the North Carolina Patrol, you were able to actually mobilize a large number of troopers to go to that area immediately and capture this murder.
That's correct, and it is a dangerous job, and it's dangerous for all law enforcement officers because you never know who you're stopping or who you're going to walk up to and what their current state is. So it is a dangerous job, and our troopers are well trained to handle those things, but unfortunately you can't prevent everything. Last year we lost Trooper Gene DeMuth out of a chase where he got run over by trying to deploy stop sticks. Those kinds of things. The things that you mentioned about the manhunt. Mm-hmm. And the other things we do, of course, we respond to all natural man-made disasters. So if you have a hurricane or a tornado, we deploy, we go. The Democratic National Convention went down and supported it. We had more than a troop's worth of people down there serving the city of Charlotte, along with Charlotte, trying to make that thing run smoothly, which it did. But we do have the ability. A lot of times we say we're North Carolina's 911. When you've got, some of the departments are very big, but some of them are very small. You go to Camden County, Halifax County, some of those are very small. If they have an incident or a shooting, they need help, we can respond with aviation. We'll respond with troopers on the road, troopers that help assist perimeters and manhunts and those kinds of things. We try to be there for everybody.
Jeff, as you look at that and think about it, and from your position with the patrol, that's a huge public relation plus, I would think, as it relates to the patrol responding, because there's a lot of sheriffs, police chiefs in the state probably feel good to know that they can press that button and say, I need some more help down here.
Absolutely. When we were sitting here just discussing about the manhunts, I was kind of reflecting back, and I can remember approximately 2 years ago, it might have been two and a half years ago, there was an officer up in, I believe it was in Halifax County, that stopped a vehicle on I-95 one afternoon. And come to find out, those two individuals were wanted, and he ended up getting shot. Instantaneously after that, everything that we are trained to do and we were called upon, just like all law enforcement, everybody went to that area, set up a parameter. We had our aviation unit up. One part, as far as my job, was to put out and disseminate credible information to the media of what we call BOLO, be on the lookout for that vehicle. And those resources to be basically dispatched and put into place quickly makes the difference between catching somebody and not catching somebody. In that case, we did apprehend those individuals. So that's just one example. And then just like the Colonel said, North Carolina is a very unique state. You live on the coast, you have the hurricanes, you have the tornadoes and so forth. And so our people, and we train for this. I mean, we train to basically to get a call, spur of the moment, and we have troopers come as far as Murphy and, of course, as far as Manio in all parts of the state. And it's a sacrifice for them. It's a sacrifice for their family to do that. But we know that when we join up, that we're there to provide a service to the citizens, and that service is what we're going to do. And that's just one little facet of what our organization can do. But that's just an example as we were sitting here talking about these manhunts and how quickness is the essence as far as getting to a place, and we train for that, and usually it works out. So
solving that problem as immediate as possible.
Absolutely.
Colonel, just a quick kind of, and we mentioned this in conversation, the aviation unit has always been touted not only by the patrol but local agencies as well as being a huge plus, not only for the state but for local departments and for the patrol. Right. How much support do you have now in a leadership role with the patrol for that aviation unit, and do you see the potential that it could be expanded?
Well, I have a special place in my heart for aviation because I came through special operations as a trooper. Special operations had criminal interdiction and collision reconstruction along with aviation, and I've seen firsthand how important they are. Not just our troopers, I mean they can assist in chases and manhunts that involve us, but when you find that missing child or that elderly couple that's got misplaced and you're able to find those are worth their weight in gold. And the aviation unit, unfortunately, due to the budget we have right now, we're not going to be able to expand, but we've done some things to improve our service at the same time. We're there 7 days a week. We've got pilots on standby. We're flying currently out of Raleigh and Salisbury, so that response time is cut down because we're there more often, and just trying to be proactive and making sure that we're there when we're needed. And we encourage them to call us if we can help. We don't care if you're in Bryson City. We'll come. It might just take us a little while, but we look forward to that.
Guys, one of the things that's changed, I think, law enforcement, and I know the Highway Patrol and other agencies, but it's been a huge both plus and in some cases negative, is the whole issue of technology and technological advancement. My experience in law enforcement dates way back to something called a 15-ounce convoy that had a little spring in it, and we could spend 2 or 3 hours talking about the advantages and disadvantages and the cruelty of that. But now we've moved into tasers. We've got electronic capability of video access recording, even down to traffic stops, and the pros and cons of that could be discussed. Where do you see us now with the patrol as far as the pluses with technology, and what is our potential? What is the future for technology with patrol? And both of you can discuss that from whatever point.
Right. Yeah, and it has changed a lot. Like when I started, there was the convoy, and then for a while we didn't really have anything. You had a handgun and a flashlight in your own hands. Then along came pepper spray, which was a plus, but maybe not as effective as we had liked it to be in every situation. And then the Aspeton, we had that as well, another good tool. But the thing that's probably changed the face of law enforcement is the taser. It enables you to mobilize somebody without doing permanent damage to them, no long-lasting damage to them, and getting the situation under control quickly without having to put your hands on that person. So it's been a big plus. The other thing you mentioned was in-car cameras. You know, with the Trooper Potts when he got shot, man, that camera was instrumental in us locating and following up on that case and making an arrest out of it. So those things have made our job safer. But nothing's foolproof. A camera won't keep you from getting shot. It may help you afterwards, but it also improves our people. Most every trooper that has a camera loves it, glad they have it. Sometimes you can really clear things up very quickly by watching the video and what really happened on the scene. So that's been a big plus and helped us save lives along the way.
Jeff, from your seat with patrol, what do you think?
Well, I'm sort of like in the same boat that the Colonel is here. Through the 20 years, I've seen things change. But with technology, there's pros and there's cons, and we're going to continue to grow at what the future holds. You just got to kind of take it all with a grain of salt, and basically, we're big on training, and that's one thing that we hang our hat on heavily. So we do that. But the ultimate goal is for all law enforcement is to basically, and when they get in a confrontational situation, is to resolve that as easily and quickly and safely for all parties involved. And you talked about the taser, and there's some misconceptions about the taser, but the taser is one tool that allows us basically to prevent injuries both for the suspect and for the trooper, law enforcement for that matter. And we look at that and we use that, and that is a good tool. I had a camera, as the Colonel said, many of us, I loved it, I enjoyed it. Not only from an enforcement aspect, but it was kind of like a safety thing for me, that in the event something tragic was to happen to me, I would like for my perpetrator to be caught. So, when you talk about the pot situation, that was one of the most important pieces of that situation that day, because what it allowed us to do was basically disseminate information quickly, efficiently, and then, of course, we all came together as an organization and as all law enforcement, and within less than 24 hours, we had that suspect in custody, and it was attributed greatly, I would needless to say, to that camera. Without the camera, we could be talking or telling a different story here today, that suspect is still on the loose. So I'm all for technology, but with technology comes some issues and challenges. Sure. But I'm for it. So.
Give us an update on Trooper Potts, by the way, since we've mentioned his name 2 or 3 times. I know he was all over the media there for a while, and now it's kind of calmed down. And in fact, I was even going to contact him, get him to come down and talk to us about some issues that he was facing, coming out of this. But how is he doing, Colonel?
He's doing better all the time. He's had some issues with some ringing in his ears and some numbness and stuff. But as time progresses, he continually gets better, and we're still very hopeful that it won't be long and he'll be back in a gray uniform, working again.
And I told you off camera, and I'll say, just before we go to break here, I was so impressed that the governor went over to Duke that night and walked into that room with everything he had going on. And I think he'd just done his address to the state that night, and all of a sudden the governor of North Carolina goes to Duke and goes into the room and takes time for Trooper Potts in this very tragic situation that occurred. So, and I think that's the kind of thing that we look at as folks out here in society when we think about leadership and we think about the dynamic of leadership. So when we come back, maybe we can get into some of those leadership issues, training issues, and talk about that and how important it is for you guys going forward as an example of what law enforcement should be in the state of North Carolina. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take another break. Again, we're talking with Colonel Gray with the North Carolina Highway Patrol, First Sergeant Jeff Gordon. We'll be back in a moment as we continue this discussion about safety, the roads, and North Carolina Highway Patrol. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. The name of the show is We Should Know. If you're listening to us on WCLN Radio, you may be driving down the road. We encourage you to call a friend. We got some very special guests on today, as we do each and every week. We've got the Colonel with the North Carolina Highway Patrol on, Colonel Gray. We also have First Sergeant Jeff Gordon. Colonel, Jeff, both of you guys, thank you for taking time. I know your schedule is busy. Jeff, I see you a lot popping up on the news and here and there and doing a wonderful job. Colonel, again, congratulations on your position with Patrol. As we went off air a while ago, we were talking about the importance of the leadership dynamic within not only Patrol but in everybody that's in communities now. And the Patrol has been able to maintain that, I guess, standard for law enforcement quite a bit in the state. And admittedly or not, a lot of local agencies look at the Patrol as that's kind of where I would like to be. And of course, I remember years ago when, and we discussed this off break, when I was out there, that we used to wait and get cars that the Highway Patrol had, and we would use those cars 2 or 3 years in local and municipal government because, you know, budgets were tough back then. And the police chief at that time, who was Bill Thornton, we may get a car that come from a trooper or something that a sergeant or somebody had that was not out there every day on the roads, and it was a nice car. It would last us 2 or 3 years. So there's a lot of ties that agencies in the state, local and otherwise, have with the Patrol, and one of those is leadership and experience and expectation. Let's talk about that a bit. What does that mean to you as Colonel? And Jeff, we'll get to you about how you feel we're there or not there now with the Patrol.
Yeah, well, the important thing for us is excellent leadership. And we start from the very beginning. We teach you how to be a trooper, and then as you progress through being a trooper and you assume those responsibilities, we invest in our people constantly to prepare them for the next rank. When that trooper goes to sergeant, he should already know that job. He should know how to do it, but not the paperwork. We're not a paperwork organization. We do paperwork. It's a course of our business, but we're a people organization. We lead people, we serve people, and that's our number one thing to remember. So we're building our leaders based on leading other people, not leading paperwork or managing paperwork. We've been very fortunate in it because we do invest in leadership training and leadership schools along the way. And I think one of the most basic tenets, and we're very lucky on the Highway Patrols, is because it's so much like a family. Mm-hmm. When something happens to one of us, it happens to all of us, good and bad. And I think the key component of being a good leader is caring about the people you serve. I care completely and totally. They are my life as the troopers on the road. That's what we get up every day and go to work for. Those citizens in the state of North Carolina, keeping them safe. That's our core mission, is just saving lives. Every life we can save is a blessing to us, and that's what we work for. So we try to lead through caring and by example, and not asking, just a lot of those things are basic. Not asking somebody to do something you wouldn't do. That's the good thing with being the Colonel and having come through the ranks. Man, they know I've been there. They know First Sergeant Gordon's been there. They're willing to follow Jeff and these other leaders because they know they've done it too. And it's been a real blessing for us.
How do you think we're working when we're thinking about that as leadership,
I think we're doing an excellent job. I know the Patrol has put a great emphasis on leadership training. We put our people through that leadership training. But, leadership is one of those traits. It's almost on-the-job training. And, I happened to come across a picture that I saw on the internet, and it showed what a true leader was. And, it was going back to the Egyptian times where they had the slaves pulling the Egyptian leader in a cart. And then the second picture underneath him, it was him actually help pulling the cart himself. Mm-hmm. And that's a prime example of what leaders are, people that lead by example. And I know you hear that all the time. But it's the leaders that get down there and get their hands dirty with the men and women, what I call the boots on the ground. But as far as organization, we do a fantastic job. We do put our people through training. Because we have to be leaders in any type of crisis situation. When we get called to a collision scene, a bad collision scene, or whatever that may be, natural man-made disasters, people are looking for leaders. People are looking for people to take control, to calm them down, and then give them a direction to go in. And that's what we do with the Highway Patrol. We try to lead and we try to show by example.
Colonel, you made a very, I think, important statement when you said that you're people, you're there about people and not paper. We have so many bureaucracies now, I think, that's gotten so caught up in the paper that they don't understand the dynamic of we're here to serve somebody, we're here to do something to help somebody or to prevent something from happening that may be a tragedy. When you basically lay down whatever time at night you might get to bed, put your head on that pillow, what concerns you the most as you go to sleep? Or maybe it's the phone rings at night, and I'm sure you get that. What really hits you as being a concern that you might have?
That's two things. My number one and my biggest fear is losing a trooper. We've lost them in the past. We've lost quite a few of them, and it hurts. These people go out and they do a very dangerous job. We have to give them the tools and the resources to make sure they're as safe as possible, but nothing's perfect. So I always worry about that phone ringing and one of my troopers being hurt or even killed. So that's my number one worry. And my number two worry is the citizens of this state, our teenagers. You know, the number of wrecks they're involved in, the number of fatal wrecks they're involved in, how do we reduce those? We're taking a lot of proactive steps through working with other programs like the Brakes program, who they do teenage driving improvement. So through education and enforcement, we're trying to save those lives. But everybody, from the grandparents to the parents to the young adults, our goal is, and our concern as the Highway Patrol, is protecting those people and keeping them safe through our core mission, which for us, what drives us on those things, of course, are taking the impaired driver off the road, making sure speeders are stopped and cautioned about their speed. Seatbelt usage is up because that's a big thing. Seatbelts save lives, it's proven. Child restraints, children being improperly restrained. A lot of times it's not the parent's fault that the child's not properly restrained. Some of those are pretty complicated little seats and they don't know how to put them in. And that's a good thing. We were in Western North Carolina yesterday talking about child restraints, and buckleupnc.org, which is a website you can go to and find out where can I go and get help with this child seat. And they'll help them put them in and install them and make sure they're properly so that that child is not at risk anymore. So to get back to the beginning question, number one, I worry about my people being hurt or killed. And number two, I worry about everybody in the state.
Absolutely. Good answer. And my sense is that we've got a whole new dynamic occurring. And I want to toss this question, and both of you can volley this back and forth, or we can discuss it together. But we all know we have a huge demographic in our state of a Latino population that's moved in. We all are very aware of the immigration issues, immigration policies that are yet to be processed and decisions made with the courts and with the legislature and others. This population of folks, my sense is, my experience has been in talking with a number of these people, dedicated, hardworking, intelligent, family-oriented people. Unfortunately, and we've done a number of programs locally that I've worked with on preventing certain kinds of traffic problems, drinking and driving, those kinds of things, with that community of people, because they're bringing their experience in driving from another country here, and the application doesn't work. What is the patrol doing to change that population's thinking and get them more encultured into the dynamics of driving? Jeff, I'll start with you.
Well, I'll say this. The patrol, we understand that the Hispanic population is a very important part of this state. One of the things that we do, and in the Hispanic culture comes, especially the law enforcement, there's a little apprehension as far as talking to a law enforcement officer based on coming from the country that they come from. So the number one thing that we want to do is we want to be approachable. We want to be open. We want people to talk to us as law enforcement officers if they have a concern or whatever. We talk about enforcement that the patrol does, but a big proponent, a big piece of that whole piece is education. And not only education, one ethnic group, but education the whole population as a whole. We as in the patrol, we try to educate the Spanish population. We have a Hispanic liaison that we utilize oftentimes when we do public service announcements, educational pieces. We go to the Hispanic television station, radio stations to kind of reach out and really hit those areas that need to be hit. So we're proactive and working in towards that to address those issues, because, at the end of the day, our ultimate goal, like the Colonel said, is basically to ensure a safe and efficient driving atmosphere out on the highway. And it doesn't make a difference what race, what background you're from. We all got to come together to do that. So it's an issue that we see that's very serious, an issue that we're going to continue to work on. And I'm a firm believer of, and don't get me wrong by saying enforcement is not important.
Right.
But education is just as important as enforcement, but we do an even fair share on both of those.
Colonel, I think that education word builds into the prevention word as well. Prevention, if we could prevent one of those tragedies, whether it's this trooper being shot or whether it's that child going through the windshield because of not using a seatbelt, that's kind of critically important too, is it not?
It is critical. If, like I said, responding to the scene is not going to stop it from happening. So you got to be in front of it. You got to educate the people. You got to help them help themselves along the way. And a lot of it's just a learning curve that they're not aware of a lot of these things that can make them better drivers. That can make their children and themselves safer as they go down the road.
One of the things I was talking with a Latino friend of mine a while back, and we were talking about intersections, and he was telling me that in Mexico, that quite frankly, whoever got to that intersection first had the right of way. And I thought, well, that was kind of interesting because here you could really get plugged heavily in the side or somebody could end up dead. So I think sometimes it's little things. Would you agree that we need to kind of stress?
Absolutely. I mean, it goes back to what we've been discussing as far as education. And the state of North Carolina is doing a fantastic job as far as reaching out to them, whether it's the Highway Patrol, whether it's the DMV. We're putting those resources, putting those tools out there for people to take advantage of, and to kind of learn the rules of the road. And so, what that means to us, it makes our job a lot easier. We don't want to have to make that dreaded knock at 10 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock in the morning and letting a family member know that their loved one's not coming home anymore. So, we are doing the proactive things, but we still have a lot of work to do.
Well, we're going to take another break, and we're going to come back and talk a little bit more about some of the details. And I want to reach back a little bit in history and talk a little bit about some history with the patrol and some of the things you guys have been through. So we're going to take a break now and come back in a moment. But ladies and gentlemen, before we go to break, again, I want to thank you for watching us. I want to thank you, too, also for sending us those emails. WeShouldKnowEDU@gmail.com. WeShouldKnowEDU@gmail.com. Stay with us. We'll be back in a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. The name of the show is We Should Know. We're on the air Tuesdays, 2:30 to 3:30. There's replays at 7 p.m. Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Starvision TV, Starvision Channel 16. I hope you take a look at it if you happen to miss us today. Of course, you can also DVR us and keep us there on TV if you want to take a look later on. We are talking with the Colonel of North Carolina Highway Patrol. Colonel Gray's with us. We're also talking with First Sergeant Jeff Gordon, who handles a lot of the media stuff. Gentlemen, again, thank you for taking time to come in and talk to some folks here in southeastern North Carolina. And really, if we look at YouTube, which is kind of a scary thought because you'll see me on there, you'll see us anywhere in the world. So we're worldwide, and we're talking about a lot of stuff that matters and matters significantly. And some of those things are life and death situations. I have a lot of doctors and surgeons on the show. They deal with life and death situations. But you guys deal with life and death situations every day, every moment, and you really don't know when it's going to happen. At least a surgeon's preparing for and is isolated. An attorney can look at the paperwork and process that case over time. Your life and death situations turn out to be milliseconds of time. With that said, we have seen in the news media recently and over time there's a lot going on in Raleigh. There's a lot of mergers happening. There's a lot of departments being moved from one place to the other, a lot of name title changes. Can the public and can the patrol feel comfortable that the North Carolina Highway Patrol is going to be in a position to maintain the high standards of the patrol and continue forward as an example in the state and the country for law enforcement?
Absolutely. We're very fortunate. We got very strong support from Governor McCrory, of course. Like you said earlier, if there was ever any doubt that he was a fan of law enforcement in the North Carolina Highway Patrol, that was all put to rest when he left the state and went to Durham to see our trooper. I mean, that's the kind of person he is. That's the kind of support we have from him. And not only from him, but also Secretary Perry, the new Department of Public Safety, who was our law enforcement commissioner before, retired from the FBI, just a great guy. He believes in the Highway Patrol as well. He supports us, and he supports what we do. So we don't have any qualms or concerns about changing our standards. They understand the key to a great organization is having great people and setting high standards, because if you set those standards with good quality people, they'll meet those standards each and every time.
And one of the things, guys, I want to mention too, and I almost let this slip by, I want to make sure I mention this, is that although your primary function is traffic and dealing with collisions all over the state and so forth, you've got statewide arrest powers. You can do literally anything related to law enforcement in the state, with the exception, of course, some federal facilities and tribal lands and that kind of thing. And I think you've pretty much covered on that because you've got federal agency clearance to deal with it there. Having said that, a lot of the things you guys do deals with interdiction issues on some of our interstates, and literally millions of dollars annually. The North Carolina Highway Patrol brings in to the state of North Carolina in asset money and drugs and so forth, and that's nothing to sneeze at when you look at it, and that's kind of high profile stuff. You want to mention anything about that, either one of you?
Go ahead, Jeff.
The Colonel has a good background in that.
Absolutely, that's what I was saying.
He's got an excellent pedigree. But
yeah.
You know, our men and women that are out there, and speaking for myself, I've worked Interstate 95 for many years here through Johnston County, and our interdiction team worked out there. And you'd be amazed as far as the amount of trafficking that goes from north to south and vice versa. And those men and women that are out there do a fantastic job, and they do confiscate a lot of drugs and a lot of currency. And without them being out there, you know, we are making a difference in the impact into the drug trade. And so we're going to continue to do that. So yeah, I mean, it is an important part of our organization, and I'm sure the Colonel can attest to that. With years ago, with him being well involved with that, it's something that we need, something we're going to continue to do, and something we're going to build upon.
And a lot of times people think of interdiction as just drug interdiction, but what those guys do is a safety of life issue as well. We've had stops on interdiction where they stop and the guy's got a knife laying in the back seat and he's covered in blood, and he's come from Florida. And you figure out whose car it belonged to, and you call down there and have him check, and he's actually committed a murder that nobody's aware of yet until we stop him on the road and arrest him. So it's safety of life for interdiction as well, not mentioning just drugs, which is drugs in itself are safety of life. But we do a lot of other things with our teams and stuff. And I think today in this society, if you think, hey, my job is just to focus on the highways, I think you're making a mistake. The Boston Marathon bombings, Sandy Hook, you got to be prepared to serve the public in every aspect of this community, and that's what we're prepared to do.
And Colonel and Jeff, both of you, one of the things I think we just recently witnessed is the tragedy of 13 people dead in Washington, D.C., right there in the Navy Yard. Are we in a position, the North Carolina Highway Patrol, are you guys in a position to be able to mobilize and deploy and deal with those kinds of tragedies in the inevitability that it appears they're going to pop up here and there?
Absolutely, and the great thing, and I think it was shown there as well, is agencies have gotten so much better at working together, developing plans for active shooters that lay over each other and they work together. So when we respond, the local departments, the sheriffs, everybody, the federal people, they're all responding to the same scene, and we work very closely. You know, since 9/11. They've really pushed the ICS model, which is incident command, and we've trained our people on it. We're continuing to train levels of leadership at that. So when everybody shows up, it doesn't matter whether you're wearing a gray uniform or a blue uniform, you're going to work hand in glove and get that job accomplished.
Very, very well put. Just a quick question about, of course, incident command is all about communication too. What are we looking at in communications in the state? You know, I keep hearing rumblings with Highway Patrol communications that one place may not be there and another place be there. Are either one of you comfortable talking about that now, or is there something that we need to hold back on until you know more? What?
No, we can talk about communication. We're very fortunate, and I mentioned the governor's ordinance. The House and Senate have been very good to us as well. One of the things, not just to the Highway Patrol, but to law enforcement in general, in that they just approved $25 million to finish out P25, Viper to P25, which is the statewide radio network. That system allows us to do a lot of different things. It allows for everybody in the state who wants to get on it, fire departments are on it, police departments are on it. What would happen is we'd run into where we had 65,000, and that was the maximum capability of the system. Now it's at 128 once we finish the conversion. So we're going to allow more first responders. When you show up in Instant Command, and my radio will actually talk to your radio now, that's a big safety of life issue. It also has some other advantages in that when you're running those systems, you don't necessarily have to have a communication center in every troop or all across the state. You could really run it with one eventually. but then you lack your redundancy because, if natural disaster hits right where your comm center sit, you have a problem. So over the years, we think that you'll see us move to fewer comm centers, no less than 3. We think that would be our minimum, but more to things like they have at the TMCs, the traffic management centers, where the Highway Patrol, emergency management, and DOT are all sitting in the same room together watching screens all across the state. We think that's where our future is for our communication systems.
And the big thing that the Colonel was talking about, the Viper program, and the key word is interoperability. That allows us to communicate from agency to agency. And see, we didn't have that capability on September 11th. When the towers fell,
That's what was really
recognized. That was really where it came into to play as far as, hey, we can't communicate. And I can remember, and I'm sure the Colonel can remember, years ago, if I was in a pursuit or I was trying to apprehend somebody and I needed help, and my nearest help was the Sheriff's Department, I couldn't simply just use my radio. I had to call the communication center. Then they had to pick up the phone and call the Sheriff's Department. And that is time, and time is of essence. And that's what this brings to the table for us. So we're happy for that. And that kind of ties into the piece we talked about early. You talk about technology. As far as our enforcement officers, that is probably the best thing on our tool belt that we can have. That's communication. Communication is the key. You can either live or you can die by it, and we're doing what we need to do to ensure that everybody, and it's not the Highway Patrol's Viper system, it's all law enforcement that want to join up on it. So we're happy to have it, and it's only going to get better.
Well, again, we appreciate what you guys are doing. I want to give us about a minute or so here to just hit some of those bullets of safety issues. I know texting is a big issue, traffic safety issues. Let's hit some of those bullets right quick.
Well, I'll say this. We just recently, we were up in Charlotte last week. There is an organization called BRAKES. It's an abbreviation, and basically what it stands for, it's be responsible and keep safe. What this is, there's a gentleman by the name of Doug Herbert who lost 2 sons back in 2008. Doug is an NHRA dragster racer, one of the top in the country, if not the top. He was in Arizona at the time. He lost 2 of his kids in a tragic accident. They were exceeding the posted speed limit, speeding, hit another vehicle head on and died. And what he did is he took a tragedy and turned it into a positive. He created BRAKES. And what BRAKES is a 4-hour block of instruction that basically allows teams to sign up for, and he has certified, trained professionals that come in and teach these teen drivers how to drive in skid situations, slaloms, running off the road, how to bring it back on, and so forth. So what we're doing as far as the Highway Patrol is we're partnering with them to spread this message even further. We're in the process of working on that, and because, like I said, the ultimate goal is to make every teen come home safely. So we're excited about that. That's one of the big ventures that the Patrol is really going to start working on.
Sorry, Colonel.
Just real quick, I just want to say thank you for having us on and for your support. It's always good to have a former law enforcement officer here with us, and then for you to bring out the points that you did. We appreciate your support, and as we do from the community as well.
Well, and I think one of the things that we're doing, Jeff, is what we all need to do. I think is know that we all have game in this, and it's kind of important to us. And I know as you go around the state, you meet a lot of people, and now, of course, we know who our new colonel's going to be, and that same kind of integrity moves forward with the Highway Patrol. And as we look in the future, hopefully we'll have, I guess, the good conscience of those that are in the legislature and in the executive branch to make sure that we have solidified that image and integrity that you guys represent. So,
thank you.
And again, I can't say enough for you taking the time to come down. So I know this is an important job for you, and we just say to people, don't text and drive, don't drink and drive. Whether it's and I've told people before, they say, well, how much are you supposed to drink? I just forget that. If it's a glass of wine, don't get behind the wheel of a car. It's just that simple. And I think with that rule, we'll all be safer. And at whatever time, I'll make a public announcement, whatever time you need to come back and have issues you need to clarify, you got a place to come, and we can certainly do that.
Thank you very much.
So again, thank you for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking with the Colonel of the Highway Patrol, Colonel Gray. We've been talking with First Sergeant Jeff Gordon, not the racer, but Jeff Gordon, the Sergeant with the Highway Patrol. We thank you for staying with us. We'll see you again next week on the radio.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of We Should Know with host J.W. Simmons. If you have a question or comment regarding this or any episode, please send your email questions and or comments to jwsimmonsedu@gmail.com. And remember to tune in every Tuesday afternoon beginning at 2:30 for another informative episode of We Should Know.